Hello, and welcome to another episode in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series. My name is Jason Perkins. I'm an attorney who specializes in handling Georgia workers' compensation cases. I created this series of videos to provide people who've been hurt at work in Georgia with helpful information about Georgia's workers' compensation laws and the benefits they should receive under those laws. Now, let's jump straight into today's topic. Today, I'd like to talk to you about, does Georgia workers' compensation pay for college? Let's first talk about when this question normally comes up. This question often comes up when someone suffers a serious injury that prevents them from returning to the type of work that they used to perform. So, for example, maybe somebody has a very serious injury to their back, and even after treatment, they can't go back and do the type of work that they used to do that required them to lift 50 pounds or more regularly. And so they're looking to get retrained or go back to school so that they can return to work at some other type of lighter work. So does the workers' compensation insurance company have to pay for them to go back to school in this situation? Well, the answer in almost all Georgia workers' compensation is no, but there are some limited exceptions to that. So Georgia workers' compensation insurance companies generally have to pay three types of workers' compensation benefits in an accepted workers' compensation case. The first type is medical benefits. That's paying for treatment and testing with certain authorized doctors that you need as a result of your work injury. The second type of benefit is wage loss benefits, which might be paying when you're totally out of work because of your injury, or if you're working but doing light duty work and making less money because of your injury. The third type of benefit is something called permanent partial disability benefits, which means you've got some permanent loss of function as a result of your work injury. College or educational retraining would be what would generally fall under a fourth type of benefit known as rehabilitation benefits. Now, in Georgia workers' compensation cases, rehabilitation benefits are not required to be provided by the workers' compensation insurance company in most cases. There are some limited situations where they are required to provide them, which I'll talk about later, but in what's called a non-catastrophic workers' compensation case, insurance companies only have to provide these benefits if both the insurance company and the injured worker agree that they're going to be provided. Now, insurance companies are businesses, and they're in business to make money. So usually they will only provide something that's voluntary if they think that it's going to benefit them financially. And in really every non-catastrophic workers' compensation case I've ever seen, an insurance company doesn't think that it makes financial sense for them to pay for someone to go back to school. They just don't think that it's going to save them money in the long term. So if they have a choice about whether they provide that benefit or not, they're going to choose not to provide it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it is the general rule that providing rehabilitation benefits is voluntary in non-catastrophic workers' compensation cases. But there are exceptions to that rule, and that is if a case qualifies for a catastrophic designation, the insurance company must provide rehabilitation benefits. So what is a catastrophic designation? Well, a catastrophic designation is one of 6 specific types of injuries that is defined under Georgia workers' compensation law as qualifying for a catastrophic designation. Those types of injuries include certain types of severe burns, certain types of severe amputations, certain types of severe spinal cord injuries, certain severe head injuries, certain types of blindness, and a catch-all category where an injury at work prevents someone from returning to their prior work, and also any work available in substantial numbers in the national economy. Now, if someone qualifies for a catastrophic designation, they are entitled to rehabilitation benefits. So in this situation, college education or other types of retraining might be something that's provided as that rehabilitation benefit. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will be. It's a question of whether it's going to meet the standard of what has to be provided as far as rehabilitation benefits. But there is at least potential eligibility for that. But very few cases qualify for a catastrophic designation. So what if you suffer a serious injury that prevents you from returning to your prior work, but it's not an injury that's severe enough to qualify for a catastrophic designation. You may need to get retrained, but how can you go about doing that since the insurance company doesn't have to cover retraining as a rehabilitation benefit in a non-catastrophic Georgia workers' compensation case? Well, one potential strategy to explore is to use settlement as a vehicle to fund the retraining that you may need. Now, what is a workers' compensation settlement? I've talked about that in many other videos in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series, and there's a link to a video above that you can click on that further explains settlement. Since I've talked about it in other videos, I'm not going to explain it in detail here, but there are a few things that are very important to understand about settlement. The first is that settlement is voluntary, meaning that you don't have to settle your case and the workers' compensation insurance company doesn't have to settle your case. Second is settlement is final once it's approved by a workers' compensation judge, which really means that you can't undo it later. So you need to make a good decision about settlement when you're making it. And the third is that settlement can provide an option to you for closure of your workers' compensation case and potentially moving on with your life. So that can be a good reason to explore it if you're not going to be able to return to the type of work that you used to do, but may potentially be able to return to some other type of work within your restrictions, or may be able to get retrained and go back to work. Again, there is a whole lot more information to discuss about settlement than these three things. I mentioned them because they're very important, but especially because settlement is final, you should put a lot of thought into settlement. I would certainly encourage you to reach out and talk with a workers' compensation attorney before making a final decision about settlement. Also, you can certainly click on the link to the video that was linked earlier that talks about settlement that I put together. And one other thing I'd encourage you to do potentially is to click on the link above that will take you to an article on our website that provides detailed information about settlement. I hope you found the information in this video helpful. If you have, please consider two things before you go. First, I really appreciate if you give this video a like or a thumbs up, and consider subscribing to this channel if you'd like to be notified of future videos in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series. Second, if you've got workers' compensation questions, please reach out to get answers. I offer free consultations in Georgia workers' compensation cases. If you'd like to set one of those up, there's two easy ways you can do so. The first is by calling the phone number at the bottom of the screen, and the other is by reaching out to us to our website, which is www.perkinslawtalk.com. Just click on and submit the pre-consultation request form there, and a member of our team will reach out to you and get a consultation scheduled. I'd like to thank you again for watching this video today. I'd like to wish you the best of luck as you recover from your injuries.